Digital distraction. Yeah. Before mobile devices, we would say BRB, be right back. All the time when we were online, we don't say it anymore. We no longer live. We live here now because we're always on, ever connected devices. We're struggling to find connection with where with friends and family. We're struggling to stay focused at work. Most of us deal with some kind of work-like situation where we don't feel comfortable foregoing digital connection for large swaths of time every day. So we stay on the grid out of the fear that we were unreachable, we would lose out. The trouble is we are wired to enjoy it. Each successive hit of dopamine we get from the likes we receive on social media or from the texts we get from loved ones or friends only reinforces our behavior. But those rewards are changing our brains. Instead of relaxing to the downtime that we might experience when waiting in line, waiting for a bus or an appointment, etc. We pull out our phones and train our distraction muscles. What happens? This is what happens when this is our constant way of being. When every loose moment is filled with shining stimulus. Staying connected may make us feel more secure, but it doesn't make us happier or endowed. I made it of the University of British Columbia led a study showed that how our digital habits are affecting our relationship. In one experiment, more than 300 adults and university students were asked to keep their phones on the table, easily accessible, while others were asked to put them on silent and keep them in a container on the table during a meal. Afterward, participants were asked to respond to a questionnaire that asked them about their feelings of connectedness, enjoyment, distraction, and boredom. The survey also asked them to detail the amount of time they spent on their phone during the meal. Those whose phones were accessible used them more often, and they described themselves as feeling more distracted. They also enjoyed the dinner less than the diners who didn't have access to their phones. Modern technology may be wonderful, but it can easily sidetrack us and take away from the special moments we have with friends and family in person. Dyer says of the study, just as few of us have learned how to learn, not many know how to process and filter the massive amount of information we are constantly seeing. We just multitask to get all of it in, and this doesn't serve us well. Asking the brain to shift the attention from one activity to another causes the prefrontal cortex and striatum to burn up oxygenated glucose, the same fuel they need to stay on task. Notes neuroscientist Daniel J. Levitin in his book The Organized Mind, Thinking Straight in the Age of Information Overload, and the kind of rapid continual shifting we do with multitasking causes the brain to burn through a fuel so quickly that we feel exhausted and disoriented after even a short time. We've literally depleted the nutrients in our brain. This leads to compromises in both cognitive and physical performances. From app notification to message alerts, it's not just adults who deal with this. With the availability of technology and social pressure to be online and active on social media, children and teenagers experience a constant distraction too. In chapter 11, you will discover the keys to sustain concentration and focus development to learn and get things done. Go to the notifications of your phone and turn off all the unnecessary distractions. And don't do this now. Do this now. Nagbibideo ako eh. Mamaya na, wait lang. Digital dementia. When is the last time you had to remember someone's phone number? I'm dating myself here, but I'm part of a generation that when you wanted to call your friend down the block, you need to know their number. Can you still remember some of your best friend's number from childhood? What about the number of the person you talk or text with every day? You no longer have to be because your mobile number remembers it for you. This is not to say anyone wants to or should memorize 200 phone numbers, but we've all but lost the ability to remember a new one or a conversation we had, the name of a new potential client, or something important we need to do. Neuroscientist Manfred Spitzer uses the term digital dementia to describe how overuse of digital technology results in the breakdown of cognitive abilities. He argues that short-term memory patterns will start to deteriorate from underuse if you overuse technology. It's the same with the GPS. Move to a new city and see how quickly you become reliant on GPS to tell you how to get around. Then notice how long it takes you to map new roads in your mind, probably much longer than when you were younger. But not because your brain isn't working as well. With tools like GPS, we don't give our minds the chance to work. We rely on technology to do the memorization for us. This reliance may be hurting our long-term memory. Maria Wimber of the University of Birmingham told the BBC that the trend of looking up information prevents the buildup of long-term memories. In a study that examined the memory habits of 6,000 adults in the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, Wimber and her team found that more than a third of respondents turned to their computer first to retrieve information. The UK came in the highest. More than half of the participants searched online first without trying to come up with the answers themselves. Why is this a big deal? Because such instant information can be easily immediately forgotten. Our brain appears to strengthen a memory each time we recall it. At the same time, forget irrelevant memories that are distracting us. Said Dr. Wimber, forcing yourself to recall information instead of relying on an outside source to supply it for you is a way of creating and strengthening a permanent memory. When you contrast that with the reality that most of us have a habit of constantly looking up information, maybe even the same information without bothering to try to remember it, seems we're doing ourselves harm. Is relying on technology always bad? Many researchers disagree. The argument goes that by outsourcing some menial tasks like memorizing phone numbers or doing basic math or getting directions to a restaurant we've visited before, we're saving brain space for something that matters to us, more to us. There's a research that says our brains are more like a muscle than a hard drive that fills up. There's a research that says our brains are more like a muscle rather than a hard drive that fills up. That the more you use it, the stronger it gets, and the more it can store. The question is, are we making those choices constantly, or are we acting out of unconscious habit? Too often we outsource our brain to our smart devices, and our smart devices are making us, well, a little bit stupid. Our brains are the ultimate adaptation machines, capable of seemingly endless levels of evolution, yet we often forget to give the exercise it needs. Just as there is a physical price to always relying on the technology of the elevator instead of taking the stairs, so is there a price for lazy mental muscles. Use it or lose it. In Chapter 13, I will show you simple tools and techniques to remember anything from names and speeches to languages faster and easier. Take a minute to exercise your memory. Memorize the phone number of someone you communicate regularly. But I memorized it already. 094600348117. And digital deduction. In a digital first world where millennials obtain all their answers to problems at the click of a mouse or swipe of a finger, the reliance on technology to solve every question confuses people's perceptions of their own knowledge and intelligence, and that reliance may well lead to overconfidence and poor decision making. Ay, ano mo to? Para hindi malamig. Ikaw mag-jacket yan. Saan ako? Says Ronnie Zarum, founder of the video collaboration platform Neuro. The ubiquity of information about everything also means that there is a ubiquity of opinion about everything. If you want to know how to feel about a hot button issue, you can just go online and collate opinions of others. If you want to know the implications of an event or a trend, a quick online search will provide endless amounts of analysis. The upshot is that deduction, an amalgam of critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity that is an essential skill for being limitless and becoming automated. There's a certain amount of value to this, of course. Before the internet, we were limited in our access to the opinions of others. In an ideal world, being able to get as many perspectives on the topic as possible would be enormously valuable in helping us to form our own opinions. Unfortunately, that's rarely how it plays out in the real world. Instead, we tend to identify a handful of resources with which we align and then give those sources extreme influence over our thinking and decision making. In the process, the muscles we use to think critically and reason effectively are atrophying. Where we're letting technology to do the deduction for us, and if technology is forming our deductions, then we are also ceding much of our problem solving ability, something so important and something that we will discuss at length later in this book. Psychologist Jim Taylor defines thinking as the capacity to reflect, reason, and draw conclusions based on our experiences, knowledge, and insights. It makes us human. It's what makes us human and what has enabled us to communicate, create, build, advance, and become civilized. He then goes on to caution that there is a growing body of research that the technology can be both beneficial and harmful to different ways in which children think. Patricia Marks Greenfield, distinguished professor of psychology of UCLA, has been looking at this issue for more than a decade. In discussing the impact on education, she wrote, "What is the effect on learning if the college students use their laptops to access the internet during a classroom lecture?" This was tested in a communication studies class where students were generally encouraged to use their laptops during lectures in order to explore lecture topics in greater detail on the internet in the library database. Half of the students were allowed to keep their laptops open, while the others half, randomly assigned, had to close their laptops. Students in closed laptop condition recalled significantly more material in a surprise quiz after class than did students in the open laptop condition, because they were engaging their minds in the lecture rather than looking for what the internet already thought about the subject. They were much more responsive when it was time to reason for themselves. Greenfield analyzed another study that showed that college students who watched the news program without a crawl at the bottom of the screen signifies significantly more of what anchors were discussing. Mm. Mm. Plato Richard Foreman fears that this reliance on the internet to do much of our thinking is changing our very selves. I come from a tradition of Western culture in which the ideal, my idea was a complex, dense, in cathedral-like structure of the highly educated and articulate with personality, a man or woman who carried inside themselves a personally constructed and unique version of the entire heritage of the West. But today I see within us all, myself included, the replacement of complex inner density with a new kind of self evolving under the pressure of information overload and the technology of instantly available. Do you remember what it was like when you were approaching your teens and you first started formulating thoughts and opinions independent of your parents? My guess is that experience was extremely liberating for you, that it might be have been for the first time in your life when you truly felt like your own person. What happened to you, of course, was that your critical faculties had become refined enough to allow you to regularly employ reason to navigate through life. Why then would you want to turn this liberating skill over to a device? Think about it. How do you feel when someone tries to impose their thinking on you? If a family member, friend, or colleague came up to you and said, "Don't think about this, here's your opinion," you try to get away from that person as soon as possible. Could Yet, when we immediately reach for the internet to provide us with information, we essentially inviting the same thing. In chapter 15, I will provide you with a powerful set of tools that will allow you to supercharge your thinking and expand your perspective on any topic of the problem. While these four horsemen are the ones we need to contend with most ferociously, there's another digital danger that is worthy of our attention. I call it digital depression, a result of the comparison culture that emerges when we let the highlights reel of the social media feeds of others cause us to perceive ourselves less than. Now I enjoy social media. I love staying connected with our community, students, and podcast listeners, and staying updated with the everyday lives of my family and friends. I appreciate it so much, not only as a source of entertainment, but also education and empowerment. But I only recommend using it consciously, not mindlessly, out of habit, in a in a harmonious way, so it doesn't hijack your productivity and peace of mind. In the upcoming part 2, Limitless Mindset, I share ideas to mitigate these feelings of not being enough, as well as fears of looking bad or missing out. There are the same limits that stand in the way of personal growth and learning. In part 3, Limitless Motivation, I will show you how to add, break, change these habits. Think about decision you need to make. Schedule some time to work on that decision without the use of any digital devices. Keeping the villains at bay. Stop. No, 17 minutes na ako.